Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jay Winokur, and today, in our second installment of These Are a Few of My Favorite Things, we are going to review my top 5 favorite warbirds in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, I do a lot of warbird flying, along with the fast jets that we did in our previous video. So today, we're going to put on the list. One of these, the first one actually, kind of a forgotten aircraft, the Milviz Corsair. This is one of the first warbirds in Sim, and as a result, it doesn't get as much love as it deserves. Now, the price point is a little high. The 54 Australian dollars or 38 US dollars, but this aircraft is more than worth it. This, much like that F-104 in our last video, is very much a study level type of an aircraft. You can bend the prop, you can blow the engine, you can absolutely push this past its breaking point, and it will fail on you. Other features that I really like about it, there is a chart board that comes out from above the stick to show you here in a photo. It's right above, you see where my mouse cursor is, right on that line there. If you push on it, that comes out and your loadout manager is in there. So you can put fuel tanks on it. You can put rockets, bombs, you can put 50 caliber machine gun ammunition in there. And there's also a map. So if you want to be fully immersed in the sim like I typically do, when I fly a warbird, I do not use any navigation aids in the simulator. I want to be immersed, so I'll use a navigation aid outside of the sim for that. Or if an aircraft has it, I'll use it internal guidance. This aircraft does have internal guidance, and it's a map. It pulls out on the chart board, and you can watch your progress on the map. Additionally, the 50 caliber machine guns do work on here. You pull the trigger and bind a key for the water rudder. You absolutely will be shooting 50 caliber ammunition out of this aircraft, and there's sound effects and everything. That's a pretty cool feature. This takes a little bit of getting used to. It's a beast. And was the first aircraft in U.S. inventory to go 400 miles an hour in level flight. And there's a lot of power behind this thing. So you get this thing wound up, and it will absolutely go. And it feels like a powerful beast. You do have to spin the propeller at the beginning of the flight to be part of the engine starting process. And everything in there works. All the switches work. All the radio stuff works in there. So very much study level, so far as I am concerned. And I really like it. I've flown this a lot. There's a good image with the bombs on it and the rockets. So they included quite a few liveries with this too. Now, one point of emphasis: this is the FG1D Corsair that was manufactured by Goodyear, and this was kind of a later war variant of the Corsair. This is not the F4U, which was probably the most commonly known aircraft, but this is the FG1D. There's actually a plate inside the cockpit. Can't see in any of these photos. There's actually a plate inside the cockpit right there. It does say Goodyear on it, so that's pretty cool. That's my number one. We'll move on. Number two, aircraft that gets a lot of, I don't want to say hate because it's not hate. It gets a lot of misnomers about it. The P-40. Now, this is specifically the B variant. This is not the E, which is the most commonly seen variant, I think, in film and media depiction. The B was flown by the Flying Tigers. The Flying Tigers used the B and the C. And in American service, this was known as the Warhawk. In British and other nation service, it was known as the Tomahawk or the Kitty Hawk. But in American hands, this was known as the P-40 Warhawk. I absolutely love this aircraft outside of the sim, and in sim, it's fantastic as well. A really good price point on this one as well. This is from Big Radials. This is 22 US dollars. For what is in this aircraft, really great sound pack, really detailed flight model. Cockpit is outstanding. A lot of liveries in here. There's some images of the cockpit. You can just see exactly how detailed everything is here. And they've also included in the aircraft, go back to that photo, in this gun here, so you've got equipment in these. So in this one would be your, if you want to use modern radios, it's your modern radio pack. In here, there's checklists. So you flick a switch and it'll pop up a checklist, a little handwritten note on your control panel, and you can do it for takeoff, landing, and a few other things. That's why I really like it. It comes with a lot of liveries as well. See another good image of the cockpit there. It's just outstanding. Amazing aircraft, really high fidelity. This is one of my favorite liveries here. This silver, the training aircraft, and it's a dream. Here's one of your other liveries. This is a Pearl Harbor Survivor 284. It's actually one of these that flies to air shows and such, and this is a livery based on that airframe. So there's number 2. Really good aircraft. This has been around for a while too, so it kind of gets forgotten as well. But really, really well done, and highly recommend it. On to number 3. Number 3 is going to be a little bit controversial. Number 3 is not the Flying Iron Spitfire, which we will talk about later. The Flying Iron Spitfire is not my top 5. This is the Aeroplane Heaven Mark 1 Spitfire. $31 price point. Again, in line pretty much. You see how much the P-40 was, so a little bit more than that, but still generally in that realm. So the A had a lot of teething issues early on. The liveries weren't that great. The sound effects weren't that great. And they updated it, I want to say 2 to 3 months ago. They got a total overhaul. The flight model got overhauled. The sound pack got overhauled. The liveries got overhauled. And the sounds got overhauled. Interior sounds. The cockpit sounds were really, really bad. But this thing is one of my favorite now. It does try to simulate the differential braking, which would be in a Spitfire, which basically you're going to have to do the brake and pedal dance in a Spitfire on the ground. This is simulated in here. I don't have pedals that can do that. I have the VKB rudder, so there's no toe brakes, so it's a bit harder for me to use. But this is absolutely a top-notch aircraft too. The early model Spitfires required a ground battery unit to start. That's simulated in here. You do have to turn that on. The startup procedure outside of that is very straightforward. These were not complicated aircraft. You can see here the cockpit is very high fidelity. Really well done. Nice texturing. There's a nice image of the brake area. This is an old image. It's since gotten upgraded in the most recent patch. Here's a nice looking external image of the girl. Their pilot model I really like too. It's very detailed, very spot on, very historically authentic. And I think they've done a good job with that. Again, to preface or to add on to this, my ranking of this as number 3 is based on the most recent update to this, not the original product, the most recent update to it. Number 4, another Aeroplane Heaven aircraft, the P-51 Mustang. This comes in at $35, so kind of gone up in price a little bit. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as they say, right? So a lot of people say, is it worth it? I can't answer that question. To me, it is. To you, it may not be. For me, this price point I think is very good. I like this aircraft a lot. And we'll go into a little bit of detail on it. So I don't really utilize this feature, but if you're into that, you can take, sections of the aircraft off and such. You can see the cowlings are off here. You can see the gun ports are open. Yeah, that's cool. I'm a sucker for silver aircraft in the World War II time frame. And the aluminum, just so nice. That polished aluminum look, for me, is one of my favorites. You can see they've got some modern liveries in here too. So this is a very, very detailed aircraft internally. Very, very well done cockpit. No texturing issues here at all. Very, very high fidelity in my book. and definitely on par with P-51s in other simulations. DCS, IL-2, those are the other two sims that I typically fly, and this is definitely on par with those. There's one issue with this that keeps it at number 4 right now. They did include tail wheel steering on this, and it was very, very manageable for a while. I don't know what has gone on recently, but it can be very, very tricky to. I won't even say tricky. It can be impossible at times to actually take this thing off, which drops it down to number 4. But if that gets fixed, that would probably be number 2 or number 1, because this is a very, very well done aircraft. Also, something else that holds it back for me is the engine sounds. I do run a mod. You can see here, if you're so inclined, there's a 750 navigation system in here. I don't use that. Again, I like the immersion. But on this, the sounds are pretty lacking. Externally, all you hear is wind noise from the engine, and I'm sorry, I just don't like that. I want to hear the Rolls-Royce Merlin or the Packard Merlin going. So I run a mod that uses the Asobo sounds from their P-51s in sim, which aren't great, but the engine noise is very, very good, and it's a Merlin, and there's no wind noise. So if you do acquire this aircraft, and you do have those aircraft at hand, excuse me, I would definitely recommend utilizing that mod to get yourself some better engine sounds. Number 5, we've got the P-38 Lightning from Flying Iron Studios. So this is a very, very well done aircraft, and honestly, I have no gripes with it at all. The sounds are great. Interior is phenomenal. The flight model is great. My only detraction from some of the Flying Iron products, I don't want to, I'm sorry, but I don't want a tablet. I want to be immersed in this aircraft, and the fact that a tablet's there, yes, you can ignore the tablet, but there are certain things you have to do on that tablet, and I don't want that. I want a period correct aircraft, and I want to feel immersed in the 1940s. So that drags it down a little bit. Also, the 38 for me, I'm not not as well versed in the P-38, so I just don't fly this thing as much as I do the other aircraft that I've mentioned. But it absolutely is a extremely high fidelity aircraft. The sounds are really great. Textures are really great. They do give you a fair amount of liveries. This is $45 Australian, so this is pretty in line with the Corsair here. A little cheaper, you get $10 cheaper, but it's very much in line with the other aircraft that we've looked at here. So very, very good. If you're into P-38s, I definitely recommend picking this up for this sim. Just be advised that that tablet is an integrated part of this aircraft, and there are certain features you will have to use with it. But outside of that, flight model is great, sounds are great, textures are great, good amount of liveries included, a lot of liveries for it on flightsim.to, and yeah. So another aircraft, and while we're here, we'll just go ahead and go over to it. This is probably going to be a very controversial take from me. I hate this aircraft. Anybody that's watched my Twitch channel knows how much I used to fly this. Got my character Biglis McGinty, my RAF ace, who flew a whole lot of this Spitfire. It used to be a very, very nice aircraft in this sim, and then they hit it with an update where it overheats literally on the ground before you've even taken off, after you don't even have a run up. The temperatures will immediately climb, even with your rad flaps open, above acceptable levels. And for me, that ruins it. They need to fix that. The Spitfire doesn't behave like that in any other simulator that I take part in. And until they fix that, I won't be flying it. Also, they've made it a little, in my eyes, I think they've made it a little too hard to actually trim this thing out. In other sims, I do have to apply a fair amount of trim to get the aircraft where I want it. But let's just compare it to DCS. You know, It's a dishonest comparison in some aspects, but the Spitfire in there is very, very similar in terms of fidelity. But I can trim that aircraft far easier than I can trim this. And then that aircraft doesn't overheat. This aircraft will overheat it at 140 miles an hour in low level flight. And that's just not accurate. And there's no reason for that. You want people to fly your aircraft and fly it in a fun fashion. You have to make it flyable at all altitudes. And yes, you're not going to go full speed at every altitude. That's unreasonable, obviously. But going really, really slow and still having it overheat with RPMs pulled back and all of that, for me, that ruins the experience and they need to fix that. Once that's fixed, I'll probably start flying this more. But I probably wouldn't even put this in my top 10 right now, but I wanted to cover it because I did cover that other Aeroplane Heaven Spitfire. And I know questions would probably be asked about what I thought about this. So we'll go back to the front here. Thank you for joining me, guys, for part 2 of our videos. I think we'll do a my favorite freeware aircraft for the sim next. Anybody that follows my Twitch channel or just knows me know I love the Super Hornet. And what Asobo did to the Super Hornet in the sim is tragic. And what Touch and Cloud have done for the Super Hornet has been outstanding. So that'll be probably our next video. Thanks for joining me again, guys. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.